permutations, iterations, and machinations. But first, salutations. Welcome into another episode of the Magic Happy Hour by Happy Hour Sports. Whether you are here as a Magic fan for some fresh takes on the boys in blue, or whether you are a fan of any of the other 29 teams in the association, I appreciate your joining us tonight. I am currently recording this on Wednesday night, Thanksgiving Eve. All of the Eastern Conference games for the NBA Cup are done for the night. 6 more games to come on Friday for that play-in tournament, or I should say in-season tournament. And look, I originally planned on waiting until after the Friday night games were done to record this episode, but after what the Magic did to Philly last night, and after tonight's round of the NBA Cup games, I just felt it was necessary to record a quick episode to cover the 41-point win, but also to have a fresh look at the NBA Cup standings for the East, what it all means, and also what the current Eastern Conference standings look like holistically, independent of the in-season tournament itself. So first things first, NBA Cup game against the Sixers last night. We cannot talk about this game without acknowledging that Philly was pretty much without anyone that you would think of when you think of Philly. So there's no Joel Embiid, no Paul George, no Kelly Oubre, no VJ Edgecombe, who absolutely shredded us the first time that we played them. And then they were also without a Dembona, who we struggled with the first time around as well. And then in the game itself, they lose Trendon Watford to an apparent groin injury. Actually, I think I read today online that it was an adductor injury. Justin Edwards went down in the game, although he did return a little bit later in the game. But it was pretty much just Tyrese Maxey, right? And Tyrese Maxey was almost like that scene from Game of Thrones where Jon Snow just pulls his sword out and he, just kind of sets himself down in his little stance as all the soldiers are on horseback storming towards him. And Philadelphia, they had a decent first quarter against us, but the second quarter was insane, blew the doors wide open off this game. Orlando scored 51 points in that second quarter. Anthony Black, who had 31 points in the game, had 27 of his 31 points in that first half alone. And look, this was the kind of game where you could really just close your eyes and throw a dart at the box score and really just have some confidence that you're going to hit a category where Orlando just beat the Sixers. And so I want to run through some of those numbers real fast. Points in the paint, 80 points to 56 points in Orlando's favor. 80 points. Fast break points were 25 to 15 in Orlando's favor. The biggest lead for the night, 46 for the Magic, only 7 points for Philly. Bench points was a huge one, mostly because of Anthony Black. With bench points was 82 to 48 advantage to the Magic. Turnovers, another big one, was 21 to 11. So Orlando had 10 fewer turnovers than Philly did. And then points off turnovers, 36 to 12. Now, when you get into some of the shooting splits, 3-point shooting, Magic had another great night shooting, at least great for our standards, right? So the 3-point shooting, 38% for Orlando, 36% for Philly. 53.5% shooting overall for the Magic, only 45.1% for the Sixers. So it was just an absolute bloodbath. And that's without even mentioning the actual bloodbath on the court when Andre Drummond and Wendell Carter Jr. just channeled their inner Roman gladiators and just beat each other bloody while their mothers sat on the front row begging them to stop. Okay, I'm exaggerating slightly, but Andre Drummond admitted after the game that he was kind of looking up at the scoreboard and he was super frustrated, and so he just wanted to do something. And this was literally right at the end of the first half. 30 seconds left in the first half. Andre Drummond starts tugging on Wendell Carter Jr.'s jersey. Wendell kind of like throws Drummond's hand off, and then Andre Drummond does it again. So Wendell again shoves his arm off. So Drummond kind of like swings an elbow up near Wendell's neck, but then he drops into this like 1920s style like boxing stance. Like it was the most comedic relief that you could ask for in a basketball game. But Wendell immediately kind of looks at him and is like, he was mad at first, but then he like sees the stance that he dropped into, and he's just like, bro, what are you doing? And so Wendell starts telling him, okay, do something, But at this point, the refs were already on it, splitting them up. And then for some reason, Jalen Suggs comes running in like a WWE wrestler coming down the runway and shoves Andre Drummond. Jabari Walker comes in, shoves Jalen Suggs, and then the two of them are trying to fight. And so after all the dust settled, Wendell Carter Jr., Andre Drummond, Jabari Walker all get technical fouls. Jalen Suggs gets a double tech. He's tossed. And the worst part is that's exactly what Andre Drummond wanted, right? And I think Jalen Suggs has got to be smart about this stuff. Suggs for the Magic is far more important to our team than Drummond is to Philly. And if you're going to try to stand up for your guy like that, which I know that's what he was trying to do, and he even mentioned that. He's like, hey, I was just trying to stand up for Wendell. But when you're trying to stand up for your guy, you can't turn into the aggressor. And Jalen Suggs did. He's the only one that got ejected. And I just have to reiterate this. You cannot let a non-factor type of player like Andre Drummond bait you into getting tossed. And I mentioned it earlier. Andre Drummond admitted that this is exactly what he wanted. He wanted to inject some life back into his guys and try to get one of our players ejected. Those were his words. And his plan halfway worked. Jalen Suggs did get tossed, but Orlando added 12 more points to the lead in the third quarter, added another 3 points to the lead in the fourth quarter. Final score 144-103. And the cherry on top, this was an NBA Cup game. And so all of that went to our point differential. And so I kind of just want to segue now into some of the NBA Cup tournament talk because I know there's a lot of confusion surrounding this. And I'm going to try to add some graphics to the to this video just to kind of show what the current tables look like for each of the groups. I'm only going to cover the East because those are the only ones that have any impact on the Orlando Magic, although some of the West games tonight were really good. The Golden State and Houston game just ended, which was phenomenal. But before the night started, I looked at the 4 NBA Cup games that were being played tonight between Eastern Conference opponents, and I kind of made some predictions because I wanted to start my notes going for this episode. I made a prediction that the Raptors were going to win over the Pacers and clinch Group A. They did. I predicted that Miami Heat were going to beat the Milwaukee Bucks to leapfrog them in Group C, which they did. And I also predicted that the Knicks would beat the Hornets, which again is not really saying much, but that would keep the Knicks alive in that same Group C. And I was right about that. So the only one of the 4 games that I was wrong about in my predictions was the Pistons at the Celtics. But that game actually had 0 bearing on the Orlando Magic, which is actually kind of surprising to say out loud because that's our group. We're all in Group B together in the East. So I want to explain some of this. Pistons losing tonight drops them to 2-1. The Orlando Magic are currently 3-0. On paper, the Pistons losing tonight looks great for us. However, we play at Detroit on Friday night. And if we lose, then we will be 3-1. And Detroit will be 3-1. And the first tiebreaker, before point differential is even considered, is the head-to-head consideration. So yeah, if the Pistons beat the Magic Friday, they win the group outright. And the only hope the Magic have of advancing into the knockout rounds is the one and only wild card spot that is available for Eastern Conference teams. Now, if the Pistons hit 1 tonight in Boston instead of losing, then both Detroit and Orlando would have been 3-0 heading into Friday night's game. And still, the winner of that game would have been 4-0 and would have won the group and would have advanced. So again, no matter what had happened tonight between Detroit and Boston, our game Friday in Detroit was going to be like winner takes all, right? So with all that said, I was wrong about something unexpectedly. I kind of looked at some of the current point differentials of the 3 teams that are still mathematically alive in Group C, and I had said that is where Orlando's biggest threat will come from. In the event that we don't beat Detroit on Friday, Group C is probably going to be our biggest competition. And I don't know if that's really the case, and I want to talk about why. So first off, let me clear one scenario real quick. If Orlando beats the Pistons Friday night, we win the group for 4 wins and 0 losses. And again, that's the cleanest route. So if we lose, though, we no longer control our destiny. So I want to look at this scary East Group C table. So the Miami Heat are done now. They've played all 4 of their games in group play. They cannot improve their point differential beyond the plus 49 that they currently hold. If Orlando loses to Detroit, the only way that the Heat will get the wild card spot over Orlando is if the winner of Friday's Bucks-Knicks game surpasses Miami's point differential. And So this has to happen in pairs. So not only would the Bucks-Knicks game winner, their point differential have to jump over Miami's point differential, but also Orlando would have to get beaten by Detroit by more than 12. Keep in mind that Detroit will already know that they do not need to run the score up on the Magic. They might still do it just to spite us, but they don't need to run the score up on us because our game versus them on Friday is win and you're in. And typically in the NBA, you'll see it as a team knows that they're going to win. They'll kind of dribble out the clock, that kind of thing. And so if Detroit does that, all Orlando has to do is keep the game competitive. We don't want to get blown out by more than 12 because then our plus 61 where we're at now runs the risk of falling below the plus 49 where the Heat are now. And again, that's the current threshold, but the winner of the Bucks-Knicks game can leapfrog over the Heat depending on how that game goes. So I do want to talk about that Knicks-Bucks game a little bit because that will decide the Group C. I really do believe it. Milwaukee, first and foremost, cannot win their group at all. Mathematically, it's not possible because if they beat the Knicks, they're going to finish 3-1 in group play. Miami also has a 3-1 record right now, but Milwaukee lost the head-to-head to Miami. So if Miami and Milwaukee are both 3-1, Milwaukee's automatically eliminated just by that first tiebreaker. Now the Knicks can still win the group because their only loss, they're currently 2-1. The Knicks' only loss in group play was to Chicago, who's already eliminated. If the Knicks beat the Bucks, they will hold the head-to-head tiebreakers over both the Bucks and the Heat, and again, point differential won't matter. So let's look at that scenario. Magic lose Friday, Knicks win Group C because of it. First off, Milwaukee would be eliminated because they'd be at 2-2. And second off, the Heat's point differential of plus 49 would then be compared against Orlando's. Again, we would be the runner-up in Group B. And against the Cavaliers from Group A. Toronto won Group A tonight, so the Cavaliers, their only way in is as a wild card. If Orlando's loss to Detroit is more than 12 points, our differential would drop from the plus 61 and we would be on the outside looking in. The result of the Cavs-Hawks game would then be the deciding factor of who gets the wild card. And if the Hawks win, the Cavs are out regardless. But if the Cavaliers win, they will need to win by more than 16 points to catch up to Miami's point differential. So let's look into that Group A table the Cavaliers are in. Toronto clinched tonight, home versus the Pacers. So the Cavaliers, who are still mathematically alive to advance, are carrying a plus 33 point differential into their Friday night matchup in Atlanta. They need to win, not just by enough to outpace the runner-up from Group C, but they'll also need to hope that Orlando loses big to cut into the 61 point differential that we currently carry. So hopefully that covers it. I know it's enough to make your head spin, but the bottom line is for Detroit and Orlando in Group B, it's winning you're in. Cavs and Bucks are still alive, but they can't win their group. And the Knicks and the Heat in Group C are the more interesting one to me because New York goes into their Friday night game against Milwaukee knowing the exact number that they need to win by to advance it over Miami, which, if you remember, is exactly what the Celtics did to Orlando in the first year of the NBA Cup. Orlando was already done. We couldn't add to our point differential at all. And Celtics look, oh, we only need to win by X amount of points. And they did. And Orlando, on that first year of the NBA Cup play, found ourselves on the outside looking in. Anyway, that's all I've got for tonight. I will still be back after Friday night's games to discuss how the remaining Cup games played out and to see where things are after the dust has settled. We're also going to look ahead at the next portion of the Orlando Magic schedule, as well as talk about some of the national discourse surrounding the Orlando Magic and why people are saying that we might be better off without Paolo Banchero. It's craziness, I know, but the Orlando Magic have had the second best offense in the league since Paolo Banchero went down. So in that short time frame, we went from 18th in the league in offense to the 10th best offense in the league since his injury. So what does it all mean? Are there other factors at work? Are there other discussion points that could help you kind of argue this point with idiots online who think we're better without Paolo? Join me at some point over the weekend to discuss it. Let me know what you think as well. And if you're still watching this, you are so appreciated. Thank you for joining me. I hope you have a great Thanksgiving. Feel free to hit the like button below, subscribe to the channel Happy Hour Sports. We would love to have you join us for any time new content drops. And I hope you have yourself an outstanding night. Take care.